All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a new weekly Wednesday webinar. We're so excited to have you here with us. We know that you have a busy schedule. We know that life happens, but hey, you decided to be here with us, and that means a lot to us. Without you, these webinars wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much for being here with us. Please, before we do the intros, go get your coffee, go get your dinner. If you haven't ate yet, please make sure you eat. We don't want you fainting. Get some water at least, but we're so excited to be here with you. And uh, um, me and Milton were talking this week about how long we've been doing this webinar series, and I believe that a few days ago, maybe at the beginning of this week, we were able to celebrate our third year anniversary of these weekly Wednesday webinars. So thank you very much for those attendees that have been loyal to us since the day one. And for those that are just joining us, this evening, we hope that you like and you're here to stick around to learn something new about IRAs. I always struggle saying that. But once again, thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate your loyalty. We appreciate your support. And please, come with questions. We're excited to answer all these questions. And also, as I recall, at the beginning of season 3, episode 1, we told you all that we were going to have a lot of surprises, a lot of activities, and this evening is full of new faces and new surprises as well. But once again, thank you very much for being here with us. My name is Eddie Villanueva, your official MC of the weekly Wednesday webinars. And as usual, we're going to emphasize, please, if you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you want to comment, please make sure that you use the chat or the Q&A feature. And Andrea Londono, please remind us what is the commitment every single week?
To answer each and every single question.
That is correct. We're going to answer each and every question. We have some familiar faces, like I said, and some new faces as well. But we hope that you enjoy this webinar as much as we are already doing. And thank you very much. I see a lot of, familiar names. Mr. Wong, you're part of the panelist team. You're not even an attendee. So thank you very much for being here with us. Our coworker Gretchen, she was mentioning the West Coast earlier. And then we want to say hello to the West Coast as well. Miss Sylvia Gallo, she's part of the attendees. I think that name rings a bell. So Miss Sylvia, thank you for supporting us. You're one of us. We appreciate you for this support. And we hope that you learn something new as well. And we hope to have you in front of the camera soon. So stay tuned that your invitation is coming soon. And with that being said, I think I took enough of your time. I want to pass it on to our Membership Development Officer, Milton Aguilar Bolanos, with 18 plus years of experience, and he will be doing the intro. So, Mr. Milton, please take it away from me.
All right, Eddie. Thank you so much, sir. And like you stated, it was 2023 or March 8, 2023 when we began this project. And here we are, like you stated, season 3, and we are so excited to be sharing this weekly Wednesday webinars with all of our members and potential members. So remember, you don't have to be a member in order to attend this. So as Eddie alluded to, today's webinar is slightly different. It's not your traditional webinar that we normally do. This is going to be an exciting one. As you see, you probably see a lot of faces, people that have cameras on, and it's not a glitch. I want to clarify that. It's definitely not a glitch. You are seeing new faces, but there's a reason behind it, and that is because we have an IRA panel discussion that is going to take place. And then we are, again, so excited to be able to do that, be able to present that to all of you this lovely Wednesday that it almost feels like summertime for some reason. It's like 70 degrees and I don't know. I was debating whether or not I should turn the AC by now, but it is getting a little warmer, but it feels nice. Definitely, I'm excited for it. Not too excited about the polling though, but everything else, definitely excited. So with that being said, as always, Eddie already shared that, but it is the commitment that we have from day one, and that is that if you have any questions along this presentation, we encourage you to use that chat feature or the Q&A section, and then we have the commitment that we will answer every question before we let you go this evening. So again, we would like to see engagement as the panel discussion goes on. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce my the normal regular panel that you're familiar with, that you probably see here on almost every Wednesday. And you already heard his voice, the MC of the credit union, Mr. Eddie Villanueva with the marketing department. Also from marketing, we have Andrea Londono, who's going to be keeping track of the chat and the Q&A. So please, please, please make sure that you submit your comments, questions. Andrea is going to be in charge of keeping track of all of that and reading them at the end of the presentation. And as always, the person that makes us look wonderful. She is the genius behind the brain, I guess, in a way. This wouldn't be possible without her. So, and that is our very own Carrie Lazar from the marketing department, who also gets to do intros today, right, Carrie? So let me hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Milton, and thank you all. Welcome to our IRA panelist discussion. So we all know that retirement savings looks different for everyone. Some start early, some start late, others are still figuring it out. And that's what we want to talk about today. So we have our IRA team here to lead the discussion. We have Madison Love, who's joined us a few times. She's our IRA manager. And with her is our senior IRA specialist, Candace Davis. And they both have a lot of IRA and retirement planning experience. And they are going to guide the conversation and provide their expert insights along the way. And then we have our panelists. We have Rudy Garcia. He is in our manager in our lending department, and we've classified him as our savvy saver. He's been saving for retirement for years now, and he's going to share some tips on what he did that worked for him. We have Jasmine Basket. She's our digital marketing specialist, also our young saver. So she's here to bring a fresh perspective on how young professionals are saving for retirement. And then we have Ricardo Pineras. He's our Chief Risk Officer and also known as our knowledgeable saver. He's actively saving while balancing multiple priorities like young family and student loans. And finally, we have Gretchen Kirsch, who is our internal communications specialist and our late bloomer. So she started saving for retirement later, and she's here to share, her like what is working for her now. Yeah. So I'm going to hand it over to Madison and Candace, and they will start with our icebreaker.
Thank you so much. So yeah, so we're gonna want to just get right into it. But this first part, we're just gonna be asking our panelists a few questions. And then we'll have a discussion based on their answers. And Candace and I will be able to give some tips and tricks. So Candace, if you want to start by asking our panelists the first question.
So panelists, when you hear the term IRA, what comes to mind?
All right, and we will start with Gretchen.
Well, now I know what it means, but before, I'd say maybe a month ago, I thought, oh, that's just something that rich people use. That's another thing they use, something I don't even need to worry about. So yeah, I didn't know much about it.
Wonderful. And Rudy?
I've known about the IRA for a very long time. This is the third company that I worked for that had an IRA program. So it's been a bumpy road because of what's going on in the markets in the past and now. But I'm glad that I initially invested in my IRA account and that I have very good employers that also made a contribution, but not as well as the credit union does.
That's great. And then Ricardo?
For me, it was that thing my dad told me I should think about long, long ago.
That's great. That's I think a lot of people's perspectives. And then Jasmine?
Younger me would have never known what an IRA was. I didn't know what it was until I started working here about 7 years ago. So I just knew it had something to do with retirement.
Yeah, that's great. And so to kind of open it up, what do you guys think would have helped you get exposed to IRAs sooner, or were you happy with when you got exposed? And anybody can answer.
I will answer because I was listening to Ricardo and I thought, wow, that's great that his dad told him that. Because unfortunately, my parents didn't know a lot of, they lived paycheck to paycheck and didn't know a lot about money. And that's kind of the experience that I learned. Didn't start learning about financial things until I started working in corporate jobs and, had the benefits there. But education, so I think it's really great that we're starting to go into schools and talk to kids who are young and say, hey, save, because I never even thought about that. Nobody brought it up. So long story short, somebody telling me education about it earlier would have helped.
Yeah, so I think it's so great that everybody on this webinar who's attending this webinar, you are in the exact right place. You're exposing yourself to new knowledge. And Benjamin Franklin, I think, said that knowledge is the best investment. And so that's what you all are doing here. And I think that's so great. And I think, Gretchen, you hit it on the head. A lot of times our parents want to give us the best, and like they might not have those resources either. And so I think going out and seeking more information, and there's so much out there, especially nowadays with the internet. And I mean, sometimes I'll even go to TikTok for, to see what's trending in the retirement world. So, I think also verifying information, checking your resources. TikTok might not be the most reliable. And hopefully we are, and hopefully you have a qualified tax advisor. Any other thoughts or first impressions that anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say that even though my dad mentioned something about it, it was back when I was a teenager and thought, oh, what does that guy know? So I really wish I had listened to him because it would have made the first few years of trying to figure it all out by myself a lot easier. So sadly, you figure out too late that your parents actually know something.
Right. Absolutely true. Something
Can
that
I
I
jump in?
know. Oh, go ahead, Rudy.
I just want to say my dad was a child of the Depression. So he always instilled in us as kids to save money. I remember when I got my first job, he made me open up a savings account with him as a joint because I was too young. But he took 20% of my income. After I got my check, I cashed it. He says, give me, $25. And every paycheck that I got as I was working through high school, he put it in the bank. And so I was really fortunate because by the time I was ready to go to college, I had a really nice nest egg put away for that purpose. And so he kind of instilled in me and in us and my brothers and sisters that, saving was a very important part of what we should do because you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think a message that I'm hearing kind of from both of you is that even if you weren't the biggest fans of what your parents were teaching you, or even if you didn't hear it all the way, it still made an impact. And so I think talking to your children, talking to your friends about money and about IRAs and saving is a really good thing. And I know it can be a sensitive subject. And so I just encourage everybody to kind of take those first steps, and you don't have to go to depth if you're not comfortable, but making that first effort, because I think children do end up hearing, or at least they see the example. I know a couple of colleagues of mine from former places, as soon as their kids, you don't have to be 18 to start an IRA as long as you have earned income. So they would open IRAs for one of them owned his own business. So he had his 7-year-old helping him on job sites, and he would pay him for his work. And he just put all that money in an IRA. And so because IRAs have those extra benefits of, and we'll get into that more later of tax breaks and things. So I think that that's really great. As parents, that's a huge gift that you can give to your children. All right. Any final thoughts before we go to the next one? All right. So this one is common misconceptions and roadblocks. So take it away, Candace.
So, to the panel, what has been your biggest challenge or hesitation when it comes to saving for retirement?
Awesome. And we'll start with Jasmine this time.
My biggest challenge has definitely been budgeting mostly. Just trying to find that balance of how much can I save compared to trying to pay off like personal loans, car loans, student loans, whatever the case may be. That has been the biggest challenge. And maybe the misconception was like, oh, you had to make 6, 7 figures in order to be able to afford to contribute to a retirement account.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you heard any advice in that vein that you feel like you connect with?
Yes, from conversations with you.
Oh, thanks.
That you don't have to make 6, 7 figures. That small contributions matter just as much as the bigger contributions. Starting as early as possible is probably the best way to start, especially with compound interest and things like that. So I've learned a lot from you and Candace over the past like few months from having like side off conversations. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And I certainly was not fishing for that compliment, but I truly appreciate it. And the thing about you starting at the age that you're getting to start at is that you can contribute so much less in the long run. Because if you start at 40 or 45, you just don't have that time on your side. So still valuable to start when you're 40, 45, 50 even, and beyond. But making $25, $50 contributions when you're young can be as impactful as making $1,000 contributions when you're older. So that's wonderful. Thank you. And then Ricardo.
Yeah, so for me, the biggest challenge was I went to law school and graduated with way more debt than anybody should ever have. So for me, early on in my career, it was trying to figure out how do you balance making those loan payments with not forgetting that there are goals down the line that you want to save for. So for me, it was a lot of sitting down, figuring out what the budget looks like and where can you maximize your payments to pay down the loans, but also set some aside for retirement. And it was a challenge to kind of make everything work. But I was glad that my wife and I really sat down and did the hard work to figure it out, because it put us on a plan that allowed us to really balance things out early on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think something that I'm starting to learn is that I think when you're young, you look at your parents and they figured it out and they're doing okay, and they probably don't talk to you a lot about their struggles financially. And I think I had this misconception that it was going to get easier, it was going to get easier. And I think I'm kind of learning that it doesn't. And so it's worth the hard work now, and it's worth figuring out how to budget and make those tough calls. And so I think that's really great. Rudy?
For me, it was, what I learned a long time ago, that when you start your IRA is, what, you just have to think about, it doesn't make any difference what percentage of your income you put into it. It's just the money that you're not going to use or you're not going to miss because you're not going to have it. But at the same time, because it's not taxable income at one point, that you kind of end up getting the same amount of, money that you thought you were going to get with if you were not putting that money away. So
Right.
that I learned that a long time ago, and I've always thought about that, and I've always kept that in mind with my retirement.
That's great. I think some of the best advice I've ever gotten is when you get a raise, to take part of that and just automatically contribute it to your 401k or retirement or whatever, any kind of savings plan, because you weren't living with it before. And so you're not going to miss it when you get it next. And some people will do that with their whole raise. Some people will split the difference and do half or even just 1% is growth. And that's great. Gretchen? Gretchen, you're not on mute, but we still can't hear you.
Yeah, I think we lost your audio.
Now?
Yes.
Now we can.
That's weird. Anyway, when I was younger and a single mom and I had two little kids, my challenge was coming up with, as a mom, you really want to give everything to your kids. And I would, rather than think about my future, which was a mistake, I would put all of my time and energy into their, current living situation and then getting them to college. So, and also I had the misconception that a little bit, if I just save a little bit, it's not going to matter anyway, so why bother? So those things when I was younger, those were definitely challenges.
Yeah, I think that those are such real and relatable concerns, and we live in difficult times, where it is difficult to make the income needed to match inflation, to match some of the bills that we have, and then on top of that, life circumstances can definitely make that more difficult as well. And I think nailing the head with a little bit makes a big difference. We see that when it comes to budgeting, people who get, their coffee out and, $4 a day really, really adds up. And if you think about $4 a day in your IRA plus investing, that can just make huge, huge difference. And, yeah. And so I think that was really great perspective. All right. Anything anybody else wants to add, or any other common misconceptions and roadblocks? Maybe not necessarily related to the question, but specifically. But has any of the panelists come across any like misconceptions that they've learned or that they want to ask questions about? Let me address one that I've heard earlier while you guys are thinking. So Gretchen mentioned earlier that a common misconception that she, had heard was only the wealthy need to save, or only that's something for the wealthy. And that's such a good misconception to address. So IRAs are certainly not created for the wealthy. They were actually originally designed for people who were self-employed and they weren't able to access 401ks. And then people have used them to have more flexibility outside of their 401k. So if you have a 401k at your company, that is so great. And you should absolutely be matching anything that your company is putting in. But after that, I really like contributing to an IRA, primarily because you have more flexibility with it. You have more flexibility with your investments. You also have more flexibility when it comes to access. So another misconception that we can kind of address is having that money locked up. It is more difficult to access, which should be used as a benefit to you. But it really isn't designed for wealthy people. Wealthy people absolutely use it, but it really is designed for the everyman. And so it's definitely worth getting and having and using as one of your tools in your toolkit. And then to address really quick the misconception of it being locked away, there actually are quite a few reasons that you are able to access your money. So earlier, Ricardo, you mentioned trying to figure out how to balance savings between, or your profile, I guess, was balancing savings amongst many different areas. I know, you have children and you're talking about saving for their college and things like that. And then Gretchen, you mentioned making sure that your children have, the best life and saving and making sure that their current situation was the best. But you can actually take money out of your IRA for a first time home purchase. You can take it out for higher education expenses, not only for yourself, but also for your children. So without penalty. And so, and of course, you're going to want to talk to a tax advisor before you do any of that stuff. It's really important that you do it correctly so that you're not penalized. But if you're ever in a situation where you need to access that money, there usually are ways that if it's an appropriate situation, then you can access that. So that's another common misconception, is that once you put it in, you can't get it until you're in your 70s, and that's not entirely true. It's always better if you can leave it, right? It's better if you're able to have those funds for the retirement like that's initially set up to do. But that is something that I know scares a lot of people. It makes people nervous to put money locked away, and so there's that little tidbit. Any final thoughts before we move on? All right. So financial habits and saving strategies. Candace?
So, panelists, what actually motivated you to start saving, or what would make it easier for you to save?
All right. And then let's start with Rudy.
What motivated me was I originally am from California, and I live here in Alexandria by myself. I have no family here nearby. I think the nearest cousin I have is in North Carolina. So I was on my own. And so like I needed to make sure that if I needed a nest egg or something to fall back on, that I was going to be able to fall back on or have something to access. And I know I learned also when you do set up your IRA that there are possibilities of borrowing against it. And that's one of the things that you were talking about when you need to, if you need to. When I was going to buy my house, I thought about it, but I didn't have to. We were able to save the money by raising the rent $300 a month so that we could have the down payment for a year. But again, just knowing that that was an option was wonderful, because again, and just remembering that and keeping up with it, like everyone, like when I first started, I started only like maybe putting 3% of my income into my IRA. And then I raised it as time went on, as I got older and made more money. And even when I went through a financial crisis, I said, you know what, I need to continue to put at least, the minimum of 5 or more into it. And then as time went on, I put more into it. And now that now that I'm older and I make more money, I had to drop it because there was a situation where I overpaid, contributed. So you just have to watch it. You have to be careful and just know that, it's a good investment. It's a great investment, but you're also able to move it around out of your IRA and maybe into like IRA certificates and things like that, which I've learned over the last 5 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. I love like figuring out your why. Rudy, you wanted to be financially secure, you wanted to be safe, you wanted to be able you kind of used your IRA as one of your village members. And I think that that's phenomenal. Another thing that I wanted to touch on with what you said, we do know that with IRAs, with 401ks, there are caps. So, a little investment strategy for you all. If you find yourself in that situation where you're capping out, here's what I always recommend as a non-tax advisor. Just gotta make sure that we all remember that I'm not a tax advisor. Is I try to match out my 401k, and then I try to max out my Roth IRA. And then I go back to my 401k and try to max that out. And then if you're maxed out on both of those categories, you can actually open up an HSA if you qualify. So a health savings account, and you can max that out too. And then that way you're just really, really financially set for retirement, because you can use all 3 of those sources in addition to Social Security and other savings options, so that way you have more pools to pull from. And so that's a good strategy if you're in that lucky boat of maxing out some of your investment options. So, all right, and then Ricardo, if you want to share next.
Yeah, so for me, it was watching my parents. They immigrated to this country and had nothing to their name when they came. And so to watch how they saved every little penny they had, and looked at not only how do we save for the immediate needs and create a rainy day fund, but how do we save for the longer term needs of retirement and saving for kids' college and all of that. So watch them piece it all together. It really showed me that it's important, because when I then wanted to go to college, they had some money set aside that I could tap into and cut down on the student loans I needed to take out. So having seen that example really made me know that early on in my career, I was going to follow their example, and no matter how much it hurt, and how many trips I didn't get to take early on, that those were the important things that I really needed to start saving for, so that later in life I was in a place where I could give back to my kids, my own future self, what my parents showed me that you could do.
That's really incredible. And I think looking for those good, solid examples is so, so valuable. And I love that it was your parents. And if your parents weren't in that boat, then, you know, there's other stories out there that you can follow. And so I think that that's really incredible. Also, I loved, Ricardo, what you said about having a rainy day fund. Your IRA should not necessarily be your rainy day fund. While you can take some money out in certain situations, it is better to have a rainy day fund as well, in addition to retirement. And so yeah, I think that's great. Having your rainy day fund, saving for retirement, and figuring out that balance. And that balance is going to be so unique to each individual's family situation. And so it's worth spending some time on, for sure. And then Gretchen, we can't hear you again.
Cannot
I'm so
hear you,
sorry.
Gretchen.
All right, let's go to Jasmine, and then if we can come back to you, Gretchen, hopefully.
What motivated me was kind of like watching my grandparents not being able to retire the way they wanted to, and some of the older people in my family not being able to retire the way they wanted to, and having conversations with my mom about what her strategy was for her 401k or retirement, and just knowing that, you know, I'm at an age where, again, the earlier I start, the better I'll be prepared later on in the future. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that that's great. I was gonna say something. Well, Jasmine, I liked what you said, and I agree. Just figuring out your why. Oh, and something that I think kind of Jasmine and Ricardo kind of both talked about in different ways is you know, if you take care of this now, if you become financially wise now, you can get those rewards in the future. And if you don't, then you might not be able to retire how you want to. And so, you know, making those tough calls, you know, right now, getting out of debt, shoring up your finances and things like that will allow you to take the trips and have the enjoyable experiences and the luxury later. And so it's definitely worth the time and definitely worth seeking those resources. Gretchen, do we have you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say what motivated me to start saving is honestly just when I worked in a financial institution, PricewaterhouseCoopers, when I was younger. My kids were getting older, my financial situation was getting older, and I soaked up a lot of you know, information there that I never learned before, and I was able to get into some better habits. And also for saving, to me, it's like always get rid of it. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Just have it automatically deducted, because if you don't know you have it, you know, you don't worry about it. Or if I waited or tried to make deposits on my own, it would never happen.
Absolutely. I love the concept of pay yourself first. Put that money in the savings account first, or set up those automatic transfers, whatever the case may be, so that you never see that money before you even get that raise. Add that extra percent to your 401k. Things like that are so helpful, because you can spend your money. You know, everybody's good at that. And so don't let yourself spend more than what's reasonable, and paying yourself first is just such a good strategy for that. Awesome. Any final thoughts?
I just want to add that I know it sounds simple when we say it, but for a lot of folks, it's not. And I remember early in my career, it was, I think my rainy day fund, I was putting in like $7.50 a paycheck, because that's what I had left. And so we know it's not as simple as we make it sound. But every little bit you do, even when there isn't much there, it does help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thank you so much for bringing up that point because I have literally cried in a grocery store in the toy section because I couldn't afford to buy my children a toy that they wanted and that they did not need. And I knew that they didn't need it. And I knew that our financial goals were more worth it. But I wanted to give our children everything. And I still do. And I mean, they're not very old. Like this was like a year ago, guys. Like we're all in different spots in our journey. And sometimes you're not crying over a toy that your child doesn't need. Sometimes you're crying over something that they really do need. And I certainly don't want to simplify the struggles that people go through at all. So thank you so much, Ricardo, for bringing that up. So thank you so much, panelists. Before the second portion is kind of going to be a more educational portion. Do any of our panelists have any final thoughts, anything that they want to share, anything that they learned from their experiences, before we kind of switch into the more educational, well, it's all been educational, the more IRA experts portion.
I just wanted to add that it's really important that if you're in a relationship and you're like married or you live with a partner or something, and to sit down at that table and talk about, this is what I make, this is what you make, this is what I have, this is opportunities, or I don't have this. So that way you can, work out a budget or you work out a situation where you have that ability to save that money or put it into your IRA or, into some other savings if that's what you want. But those conversations are so important because some things happen. Somebody loses a job and you all of a sudden you're unemployed and you have to look for work, and you have to make sure that your support system is there to get you through those bumps and then help you, find something and then be happy with what you get.
Yeah.
Because the support system is really important if you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard a financial advisor once say, sit down with your partner, because most of the time in a partnership, there's a saver and there's a spender. And so the saver is obviously going to make this really tight budget, right? And the spender, is going to react to that. And the financial advisor said, let the spender change at least one thing, because it's important to have that balance. And if you create a budget or a lifestyle that's too rigorous, then you won't be able to maintain it. So it's really, really important to establish healthy habits that are going to work for your whole situation, but your family, your partnership, your whatever situation you're in. So that's great advice, Rudy. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. And then, okay, so let's talk about traditional versus Roth. I was talking to Rudy as we were prepping for this, and he was talking about how he hadn't learned a lot about Roth for a long time. And I had the realization Roth IRAs came into existence in 1998, which actually, like, I don't feel like was that long ago. And so I realized that many of our members, especially our members who have IRAs, might not know a ton about Roth. So I appreciated that insight. But so let's talk about traditional versus Roth. So the main difference is tax differences, and Candace is going to go a little bit more into those tax differences in the next slide. But essentially, traditional IRAs, you get your tax break up front. And you get the tax benefit. So that's your tax benefit, right? And then your investments can grow and grow and grow and grow, and it's great. And then when you are ready to pull that money out, that's when you pay taxes. That's your earned income. So it counts as earned income. So you pay whatever your normal tax bracket is on it, and then you can live off of those funds. Another big difference is that with a traditional IRA, you have to start taking money out starting at age 72. So because you've never paid, 73, it changed. It's definitely 73. and it's actually going to go up again in a few years. So because the government has not gotten their piece of the pie, they want you to start depreciating that account. And that IRA is there for you to use. I know a lot of people save in their IRAs, and that is their inheritance for their children, and that is so great. And that's a great why. If you're like, no, my 401k is doing great, I'm gonna have Social Security, whatever the case may be, a great why for saving for IRAs is, wanting to leave something behind for your children. So there's traditional IRAs. Roth IRAs, you do not get a tax break when you put it in. So when you put the money in, you are putting taxed dollars in. So when you get that paycheck, and let's say you get a $2,000 paycheck, then if you want to put $200 into a Roth IRA, you are doing that on your take-home pay. But what happens is that your money grows tax free. So if you do it right, and again, you have to do it right, you need to talk to a tax advisor before you take money out, things like that, then you never have to pay interest, or you never have to pay taxes on that interest. So that is a really great option for somebody like Jasmine, who is young and who has time on her side, because she can contribute $50 a month into that Roth IRA. And then she may not super need the tax break right now. And then when she is older and ready to use some of that money, she will not need to pay taxes on that. I still think it's great if you're older. I know my dad didn't open up his Roth IRA until he was in his early 60s. So it was only like a couple years ago. And the reason is for that, I just mentioned, he wants to leave his Roth IRA for his children. So I mean, hopefully my dad lives for another, 30 plus years. And so that's going to have, even at 60 or 61 or 62, even he's going to have 30 years, hopefully, for that money to earn interest, and that doesn't need to be taxed. And then of course, if he needs that money, it's there for him. Also, because the government's already gotten their piece of the pie, they don't make you withdraw it. So you can be 85 and still having that money in there. So and then Candace, I kind of stole your thunder, but if you have anything to add, please take this slide.
So there are some tax advantages of IRAs. With the traditional IRA, contributions may reduce taxable income now. You can also pay your taxes when you withdraw in retirement instead of paying your taxes on it now. When it comes to the Roth IRA, you can pay your taxes on your contributions for the year you make your contributions in. And then you can also enjoy tax-free withdrawals in retirement. So basically with these, they both have their, pros and cons. It just really depends on where you are in your tax bracket, because I've been doing IRAs now for 12 plus years. And like I told Madison when we first met, I did not like Roths because nobody explained it to me. So there are advantages with it, especially for the Roth, because depending on your tax bracket, even if you make your $7,000 contribution, depending on where you are, you may not be paying taxes on that contribution on the full amount. So there are some advantages, and a lot of them, especially when it comes to retirement, there are a lot of tax advantages.
Absolutely. And if you're at the height of your career and you're wanting to get in a lower tax bracket, a traditional might be the way to go. So definitely worth talking to a financial advisor about your specific situation, because both have their pros and cons for sure. Thank you, Candace. So let's talk about the power of compound interest. This is how I got Jasmine. So all right. So if you invest $25,000 at a 5% annual rate of return, this is the income that you're looking at. So if it gets to sit in there for 40 years, then your investment is going to equal $40,722.37. Whereas if you let it sit for an extra 10 years, for 50 years, and you're looking at $66,332.44. And for 60 years, you're looking at 108,000 plus. So this is so valuable. The earlier you can start saving. And if you're sitting there like, well, I'm 60, and so what am I going to do? You should still invest because like I mentioned with my dad, like he is in his early 60s and he was late to the game, and that's okay because if he lives for another 30 years, then we're looking at getting closer to that 40,000. Whereas if he doesn't, or if he waits even longer, then you're not looking at that. So, but this is where Jasmine was talking about just small contributions now can end up equaling really, really big savings because you have time on your side. I mean, you're looking at more than double, for 20 years. So, and so make sure, and then also just another like plug here, make sure that your IRA is invested. It is not enough to open an IRA savings account and then contribute. You need to invest in something. So CDs are really, really secure. If you're somebody like Rudy who's closer to retirement, CDs are such a good investment. If you're younger, you might want to look at something that has time to grow. The market's not doing great right now. It's a good time to buy in. It's not great if you're closer to retirement and you're worried about your investment being there for you when you're ready. And we have we partner with a group called Fellows. And our guy over there is Michael Shamel, and he is so good. He'll look at a whole financial profile for you. Excuse me, I am a little sick. So, but he'll like do a whole financial portfolio for you. And he can talk to you about a variety of investments. And you also don't have to have all of your eggs in one basket. 5% is pretty, that's like a safe return. Excuse me. So if you can get up to 10% or more, then that's really great too. So, all right. And then Candace, if you want to read this quote.
Help me with the big word, Madison.
Prodigious.
Thank you. Okay. According to the Millionaire Next Door, even prodigious accumulators of wealth do not need to devote a large portion of their time to planning their investment strategies. Millionaires spend an average of 8.4 hours a month planning their investments. So basically with this, 8.4 hours a month is not a long, so, a little goes a long way. So even going back to the last slide that Madison was talking about, every little bit helps. If you can't open an IRA certificate at this time because you're just starting out and you don't have that minimum amount of $1,000, then open up a IRA savings account. When doing transactions, if I have a member and they're doing a contribution sheet every week and it's $5, I have no problem with that because in the long run, they're saving. They're looking forward to their retirement. So actually, that's something that I'm happy about. When Madison was saying as far as the coffee goes, I stopped drinking coffee this week. That was literally $5. So that $5 that I saved every single day will on Tuesday morning go into my IRA account. So just don't, you got to crawl before you walk. And then when you got to walk before you run. So don't look at really the bigger picture, just look at that first step.
Absolutely. And if you are feeling like IRAs are really big and this is a really big topic and stuff, first of all, you're in the right place. If you attend all of these webinars, that's half of your time every month right there. There's great books. Millionaire Next Door is a great book. But there's a lot of them out there for financial education. We record and save all of these webinars. So please feel free to look back on topics that matter. Spend time Another thing I was reading in The Millionaire Next Door was, people interviewing and searching for the right financial advisor. Because that can make all of the difference in your life. And so this is worth your time. If you think about, this as more like if you're spending 8 hours a month, that's not even a part-time job, but it's gonna help you have all of those funds in your retirement so you don't have to work later. So thank you so much, Candace. So steps today. Start small. I love what Candace said about you have to crawl before you walk. So, and then you have to walk before you run. So it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're crawling, at least you're moving forward. And if you're running, that's phenomenal. And there's always next steps. So, yep. So even $25 makes a great, it makes a great start. I love what Rudy said about he increased his contributions over time. And through that, he was able to hit his maxes. And that's like, to me, at the, where I'm at in my career with my family and things, the idea of hitting my maxes is so wild and mind-blowing to me, right? And so, but Rudy just did it small bits over time and he was able to get there. So, and then automate your savings. That's what Gretchen was saying, putting those funds before you can even see them. And then taking advantage of USSFCU IRAs. And at the end of the day, we just want you to save money. And so reach out to us, see what we can do to help you. And if we can't, then we can't. But we also have other resources. As I mentioned, we have Michael Shamel at Fellows. And we can help you. We want you to, our goal is for you to be financially secure. And then next steps, Candace, if you want to give any closing thoughts and then go over this slide.
So basically, the next steps, if you guys have any questions, the website is updated with the most up-to-date IRA information. It is very informational. Our marketing department, they do put a lot of the information out there. It is really easy to read and understand. And hey, if you don't understand it, that is fine. You can give us a call. You'll get to the member services and they'll contact us. And I'll be able to assist you. And then you can also email us. When you email us, depending on the time of day when you're emailing us, you should be able to get a response to your email by, close of business that day. But with all of this information, we're here for you. So don't ever feel overwhelmed when it comes to your IRAs, especially during tax times. If you have the questions about the 1099-R or even the 5498, we are here to assist you. No question is too big. No question is too small. My thing is, if I don't know, I will let you know. I do not know because I do not know everything. But please believe I will go do my research to get the response to you within an adequate time so that you are more comfortable. My goal for me is for you not to stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we'll start answering questions. And if you have any questions for our panelists, they're still here. And if you have questions for Candace and I, we're happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madison and Candace, for leading this panel discussion. Special thanks again to the people that were part of the panel, Gretchen, Rudy, Ricardo, and Jasmine. We truly appreciate you all. Appreciate you all coming in, making time right out of your busy schedule. We all know it's a busy season right now for us, but we are most thankful that you all decided to be here and share your knowledge on IRA. So thank you again, Madison and Candace. With that being said, I know I saw a lot of comments, a lot of questions coming in the chat. There's also a couple of questions on the Q&A. So Ms. Londono, do you mind, if you don't mind, leading those questions and comments, and I will be more than happy to go ahead and answer those questions before we let everyone go.
Yes. So the first question we have is, what would you recommend someone who worked for a few different organizations in the federal government and now has now has an IRA, a 403B, and TSP funds in different accounts is consolidation into a single reliable account with a good track record. We advise past performance not being a predictor for future results.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would recommend getting multiple opinions on this. It's really up to you. So I know that most financial advisors that I talk to recommend consolidating. You have more buying power if it's all together. And so with that, even if you are all if you consolidate all of your accounts, you can still look at multiple investments and have a diversified portfolio, even if it's all in one place. So my recommendation, depending on your lifestyle, is typically to consolidate. However, you have some really interesting options there, and TSPs can have some good turnouts. So the most important thing is that you keep track of where your money is. And that you keep track of where your money is for the next generation. So it should be so if you want to keep them separated, that's fine. Just make sure that you're organized and that you know how to access them all so that you can stay on top of it. If that seems daunting to you at all, then I would consolidate because most investment types are going to have similar returns. So it doesn't super matter if you're in if the investment is under the umbrella of an IRA or a 401k or a 403b or whatever. Then if you're investing in stocks, the stock market's going to do what the stock market does. If you're invested in CDs, the CD rates are generally similar across the board. So I would say your main concern there is organization. And then you look at what your investments have been doing. Are you happy with them? Are you not happy with them? There's no rush. So get some more opinions on it, figure out what's best for you. But I do think consolidating is typically a good idea.
Thank you so much, Madison. And our next question is, does the Roth IRA retirement withdrawals still count towards earned income for filing taxes in April?
Candace, do you want to take this one?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Madison. It does count towards, but however, since on the form,
sorry. If you're taking from your Roth, you already paid taxes on it, and so you do not need to pay taxes again. You may be penalized if you don't do it correctly, if you're too young, if you haven't had it for 5 years. There's some rules, and I think, Candace, that's what you were kind of referring to. But as far as taxes specifically, no, you should not be taxed on contributions if you do it right. Earnings can get a little dicey if you're not doing it right. So talk to a tax advisor before you do it.
That's what I was going to say. Because I know you've already paid your taxes, on it. Tax advisor will be a better person to help because they know where to put the numbers at on the forms.
Thank you so much, Candace and Madison. Which IRA individual or mutual funds does the USFCU invest in?
So USSFCU only has CDs and an IRA savings. That's why we partner with Fellows, because he has mutual funds, he has annuities, he has all sorts of things. So if you are interested in more investment options, he is a phenomenal resource. If you are looking for a CD, we have really great competitive rates. Rates are going down right now, but our CDs are safe, they're secure, and the rates are competitive with what's going on right now.
Thank you so much. And Eddie, I don't know if you see any more questions. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. You might see
I
one
do
that-
not see any other questions, but I do see like some testimonies that a couple of our attendees have shared with us. For example, Mr. Juan, he was already doing that type of, before 401ks were even a thing, he was already saving up the max that he could. And he said that he did that with his girlfriend back then, which is his wife now, which is so beautiful. Imagine they started together and they're still together when it comes to, the savings, the financial aspect of it. And I think it goes with what Rudy was saying. When you're in a couple, do your due diligence, like what's your goal as a couple? Where do you want to get? What type of dream home do you want to get? And like Madison was saying as well, most of the time, if not all the time, there's the spender and the saver as well. But that's why you want to have those, interactions. You want to have those conversations. So there's a balance because there's nothing wrong with Candice getting her coffee. We're not gonna prohibit her from getting that coffee, but also don't get it every day. So it's one of those things that you gotta find that balance. Also, something that stood out to me is what Ricardo said that, hey, right now you might be, struggling a little bit, saving up a little bit, but hey, at the end it's gonna pay it off, because if you ask him now, he's probably traveling the world or wherever he wants to go. So it paid off, the investment that he did for himself. Another
Fun little
testimony. Go
story.
ahead, go ahead.
Ricardo, sorry, Eddie. Fun little story. Ricardo, Candace, and I all started on the same day, and Ricardo only was with us for a week, and then he went off and took his family to England. So it was working out for him.
Wow. That's awesome, mate. That's what they say over there. I think I don't know. I can do the accent. Y'all know me, but it's one of those things that is so beautiful to hear how everybody's hard work paid off. Mr. Ron was saying also how he put everything on a brokerage account under his Roth, and then he picked his own instruments. So it's one of those things that everybody's financial health is different. See what works for you. And if you don't know where to start, if you're a little bit confused, that's the reason why we have, our experts from the IRA team, they're amazing at what they do. But also if you want to invest, you can contact, Michael. He's the one that will be able to, push in those investments that will make the best out of your money as well. And fun fact, one of our attendees, they say that they loaded up with Apple in 2008 and they're enjoying their stocks now. So imagine doing Apple back in 2008 and how much that paid off. I mean, I think the majority of us probably have like an Apple product somehow in the house. So best believe that, that paid off. And that's amazing to hear. One thing I also wanted to share is one of those misconceptions is that Miss Sylvia shared that sometimes people think that you don't need an IRA if you already have a 401k. I think that's very common, correct, Madison? You hear that all the time,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So my husband is one of those people. He said he didn't need one. And I said that he was wrong. So, but yeah, so again, the benefit of the IRA is a little bit more flexibility. It's a little bit more portable. When you have a really hard time accessing your 401k unless if you leave. So if you have a really good job and you're really happy there, that money is pretty stuck. And so, an IRA is going to help you. It's going to allow you to invest in different places. Also, most of the time, your 401k is traditional funds, and at least the employer contribution portion of it is. And so, if you're interested in those Roth benefits, which I think most people should be, it's going to be better to have an IRA that you can fund outside of your 401k.
We do have
Awesome.
one question that came in.
Talk to us,
Maybe
Andrea.
two. So the first one is, please explain how an audit works in retirement, how to qualify, where to go, and best strategy. Thank you.
Annuity.
Wait, where? Oh, annuity.
I was
Sorry.
going to say, if you're getting audited, I am so sorry, but that's not me. Okay, so an annuity is an investment, and it's like an insurance investment. And I don't know a ton about them because I'm not licensed in investing. So you're really going to want to reach out to Michael Shamel about it, or another trusted financial advisor. But it's just another type of investment. It's typically, I mean, like all investments, you can get riskier ones and safe ones, but it's typically a safer investment. So if you are interested in that, one, I would do independent research. You can literally Google is great. And then two, I would get with a trusted financial advisor or two and see what they have to say about it. And so if you want Michael Shamel's number or information, Carrie usually sends it out when we do one of these. And so I'm sure she'd be willing. Or you can call us and we can get you with him. But USSFCU on its own does not offer annuities. We would refer you to Michael Shamel.
And Milton, you come on mute. I believe you want to say something as well.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to emphasize what Madison was saying. When it comes to annuities or any investment products, we're not licensed to talk to you about that. So definitely, Carrie sent the link for our advisor Michael with Fellows. So we encourage you all to go ahead and visit the link. And again, we're gonna send you a copy of this presentation to everyone so you have it also handy. But yeah, anything that it's related to investments, we're not able to get too much into detail when it comes to that, just because we're not licensed for it. But Michael Schimmel is amazing when it comes to that. He has a lot of knowledge, and he will be more than happy. And Eddie, can you remind everyone what is the cost to set up an appointment and meet with Michael?
That's a great question, Milton, and I believe it's free 99. That means that there is no price for it. You want to contact Michael, the service is free.
And don't feel like you need to have tons and tons to invest. He'll do a whole financial portfolio for you, like, and it doesn't matter if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest. He can talk to you about best strategies. So I know a common misconception is that you can only go to a financial advisor if you have a ton of money, and that's not true. So spend your 8.5 hours a month and look for a good financial advisor for yourself.
Just like Ricardo, he's leading by example. He said he was saving what, $7.50 at the beginning of his career, and now we're not going to ask him how much he's saving, but that's how he started. That's what I'm trying to say. That's how his journey started. So that's a great example. And just to emphasize, as you can see, the panelist team here, we're all just people trying to help others, when it comes to their finances. And that's the beauty of the United States Senate Federal Credit Union, that we believe in our services, believe in our products. And the reason why we do these webinars is because we want you all to learn something that we're learning on our own as well. So thank you very much, all of the panelists, for sharing their testimonies and experiences as well. What are the penalties for going over the annual IRS contribution limits for both traditional and Roth?
Yeah, so again, not a tax advisor, but my understanding is that it's 6%. So if you are at the risk of going over on your 401k, your IRA, start utilizing the other. And then if you're at max on both of those, start utilizing your HSA. After that, if your investment is, after that, you can always look at like investing outside of an IRA. It doesn't necessarily have to be in an IRA. And you can do savings outside of it, and that sometimes opens up more options, especially if you're a collector, things like that. You want to do that outside of your IRA anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Madison, again, for everything, all your insight and knowledge that you have, along with Candace. You guys are amazing. And please, I highly encourage you, if anyone here has any personal questions and you want to know a little more, or what are some of the additional strategies, please give them a call. 1-800-374-2758 is this number. Get a hold of Madison or Candace. They will be more than happy to assist you. And before we let you go this evening, I definitely would like to invite you all again to come and see us next week, where we're going to talk to you about launching your small business. We're going to have our member business team with us next week. They're going to tell you all about how to start your business, how the United States Senate for Credit Union can assist you along the journey, and this is definitely, you don't want to miss this webinar that we have for you in store for next week. It's going to be an exciting one. I know there's so much going on right now with the country, and a lot of people are probably looking for other avenues of how you can perhaps bring additional income to your household. And if that is something that you've been thinking about, or someone that is considering doing that and doesn't have all the resources and tools, please tell them to come and see us next week. It's going to be another great webinar. With that being said, again, Madison, Candace, thank you so much. Gretchen, Jasmine, Ricardo, Mr. Rudy, we truly appreciate you. I know we went over a little bit overtime here, but again, we just wanted to say thank you. And we hope to see everyone back again next week at another weekly Wednesday webinar. Ricardo, I see your hand is up.
I'm going to keep everybody for another 30 seconds.
Why not?
I wanted to add something to Madison's answer on the penalties for excess contributions. If you do find yourself in that boat, especially now that we're in tax season right now, talk to a tax advisor, because there are ways that you could potentially carry over an excess contribution into a future tax year. So make sure you do talk to a tax advisor if you happen to be in that scenario right now. I know it's tax season, so wanted to make sure we pointed that out to you all.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, and thank you again for giving me a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? You just made my heartbeat race a little faster because I know tax season, tax date is coming up. And I know we had a call this morning about procrastination, and I'm one of those when it comes to taxes. So again, everyone, have a good evening. Thank you all again so much, and we'll see you back next week at the same channel, same time, right,
At the
Eddie?
same time.